What's up, guys, and welcome back to Just Talking Sports. It's January 28th, 3 p.m., and it's been quite some time here. My name is Marcus Modey alongside my partners, Patton Cook, Gabe Jones. Last time you heard us or saw us, we had a little invitation here on Just Talking Sports. We was actually in the other studio, but we are here at WAPX-FM Clarksville's 91.9, and you can check us out also on YouTube at APSU-TV, Just Talking Sports. But we brought on somebody to the show, and that was Isaiah Norman, and that was the preview to the quarterfinal game against Montana State. So we're going to have to talk about that a little bit. Unfortunately, that was the last game for the Governors' historic season. They lost to Montana State 24-10. And unfortunately, it was just a dominating affair by Montana State. Guys, that score outcome didn't look like it was. 24-10, it just seemed like it could have almost been.
It was flattering. Yeah, I think it flattered the Governors. Kind of happy it didn't go the other way to kind of where, if you look at that score, it's like, man, that's one bad way to end the season. But score-wise, not a complete embarrassment, but just one thing looking at it and watching the game, just the pure size that Montana State had over Austin Peay. All year, the Governors were, I wouldn't say undermatched size-wise, but they had the speed, and they had the speed to get by some of the offensive linemen but up front. The speed wasn't helping them that very much just because, they had some bears down low. And that's really kind of where I thought the game was won from the very beginning, and you saw right away. A few pushes here and there from the Govs, but other than that, kind of just outmatched size-wise, and there's not much you can do at that point. Once you're outmatched that way, there's not much coming back from it.
The Governors had a net gain rushing of 0 yards. Yeah. 279 on the other side from Montana State. I was watching that game. I was like, yeah, it's nothing that they could do. The drives, the total for the drives, 7 punts, only 1 touchdown, a fumble, and 2 interceptions for the Govs throughout their whole game. And it seemed like Devin Stewart, the punter, he had to do everything just to keep it on the other side of the field.
Yeah, that plane offense ride back had to have been a little tough for Devin because he about kicked his foot off. And I think the big thing you mentioned, the run game, only 9 yards for Quintel. And Quintel has been battling injuries kind of game on game, but he kind of pushed through it. But up in Montana, it's a little cold. I'm sure he wasn't feeling the best. And although you weren't down big numbers, you just kind of knew you're not going to be able to run up front against some of these guys. So they had to really abandon the run game early. And that's where Austin Peay kind of lives and die. If they can kind of keep the defense honest, you can do both. That's where they're really, really good. But didn't have that element of surprise on the offensive end.
The balance wasn't there for Austin Peay. That's something that they did all season long, where they could run the ball effectively and then also go to D'Angelo Wilson, go to Benico Harley in the passing game. Javon just didn't have the best game. The running game got shut down. It wasn't really much. Kudos just to Montana's defense and offense. That would just seem like a step ahead of Austin Peay throughout their whole game. Then also, Montana State ended up losing to the champions this year against North Dakota State. And Patton, I said before we started, it was North Dakota State is just in a different league against the FCS in general.
And I kind of equate it to, if anyone is from the Middle Tennessee area, there is a school called Knox Webb, and they're a powerhouse that's kind of feeds on the bottom tier. Although FCS, they've got talent. If you move up to the FBS, it's just totally different. But they would kind of cap out their enrollment to a certain number to where they could stay in the same division and just kind of whip up on me personally, especially in soccer. But they just kind of stay down there and beat up on the opposition. And I equate that the same thing with North Dakota State because they're beating out FBS schools in recruiting. So they're basically in a lower tier playing lower opposition, but having close to the same talent as a lot of the FBS. I'd love to see a Vanderbilt or North Dakota State matchup because just looking between the two rosters, I think there is no difference. If anything, it goes North Dakota State's rosters-wise. So
it would be a close game,
right?
For
right.
real, and people would actually be shocked on a SEC team actually trying to have to work against North Dakota State.
No one dare schedules North Dakota State because what's the benefit? If you beat a FCS school, great. you're supposed to do that. But so they don't really have a chance to play some of these bigger schools because bigger schools don't want anything to do with them.
Then next up, we also talked about on the last show was my Sooners playing against LSU. And I told y'all on the show last time that I didn't want to face LSU, and y'all know the outcome of that game. I didn't want that. I was waiting 3 weeks just to know the outcome of that game. That's what hurts us fans sometimes. We're also in the broadcasting where the fan in us want our team to win, but you know the outcome is actually just going to be the opposite way. And Joe Burrow I can't say religion-wise, but dear the one above, because he was out of this world. 7 touchdowns at halftime. I felt like Patton in some ways a foreshadowing with his Titans, because we couldn't stop Joe Burrow, and arguably LSU had one of the best seasons ever, just plain and simple.
Absolutely. And coming into that game, my only hope, I guess you could say, for Oklahoma's was they're just going to have to match LSU, because I didn't see their defense being able to stop a Joe Burrow who has faced the best defenses week in, week out, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi State, other schools like that. And then it's just natural. Anytime you run in against a Big 12 opponent like Oklahoma, the defense just isn't going to be up there. And that's exactly kind of what we saw. And although Jalen Hurt didn't have a horrible game, you can't match. He was never going to be able to go toe for toe with Joe Burrow in the passing game, but you just kind of ran into a buzzsaw there.
How can you match 7 touchdowns in one half?
You can't. you can as the score reflects. You really can't. But
that's Madden. That is Madden. That's Madden-like for you. That's video game-like. You can't.
Yeah. And the only quarterback that I saw being able to do that, we'll talk about it in a minute, was Trevor Lawrence, and he even couldn't do that. So that kind of shows how complete this LSU team was, because early in the season, my Commodores, I think they dropped 30 points on LSU, and although it wasn't a close game, it wasn't a blowout either. So, and that defense just kind of slowly started to work their kinks out. Their offense gave them time to not have to panic, because early on they weren't where they are now, but that offense gave them a chance to kind of go to the drawing book and see where they need to be. And just one of the more complete teams you're ever going to see in college football that came out of nowhere, really.
You had the Heisman winner, best offensive line, best receiver, and best defensive back on the same team.
The best there's 3 receivers on that team that could start anywhere in America, would be the number 1 guy. 2
of them for sure, arguably top 15 in the draft this year.
And, of course, Jamar Chase, he's coming back.
Marcus's twin.
He's coming back for another year. I don't know who the quarterback will be for LSU, but there was at a point in the national championship game where they were just throwing it up, and he was coming up and getting it down and getting 2 feet in bounds just to show the scouts what he can do. So what a talent he is. But Justin Jefferson specifically in the Sooners game, 4 touchdowns for 227. You can do that in your backyard, and it's a good day. And he did it against a Division I defense. That just kind of shows how impressive he is.
They could not stop anybody. And also, even in the national championship game, Clemson, who was arguably had a 28-game win streak, 28 games. Trevor Lawrence had his first loss against LSU. He only had 1 loss his whole high school and collegiate career combined. And LSU just put a smacking on them in that second half, just plain and simple. It's nothing that really because Clemson was putting up points, but once you saw LSU click, there was nothing that Clemson can do.
Well, that first half for Clemson, I was a little worried for LSU because they kind of used what Ohio State did against Clemson, that high-tempo offense, and once they completed a first down, they were right back at the line, so you can't substitute, and that's really one of the big things LSU, the depth they've got on that defensive line started to really show. But once they stopped getting first downs, and a lot of that has to go with Trevor Lawrence. He went under 50% passing in that game and just looked off. Kind of a complete opposite of what we saw last year against one of the best defenses in college football history. It was a completely different guy.
But he couldn't throw on one side of the field.
Right.
Stingley on one side of the field, he only had 1 reception for 7 targets. if you can't throw on one side of the field, it's tough.
Yep.
So that's also a reason Stingley didn't even win defensive back.
No.
Delpit won it, and arguably he had a better season. So if you knew you couldn't throw on one side, you had to look for T. Higgins on one side of whenever it was matched up on the left side, it seemed like you wasn't looking at all.
And I believe T. Higgins ended up going out of the game at some point and then came back, so he still wasn't very right. It just, that whole second half, it just didn't go right. And ultimately you saw, not to the extent against Oklahoma, but just the pure brilliance of Joe Burrow. I mean, he had these passes on a rope, on a dime, and he was just laying it into his receivers. They weren't really having to make any adjustments at all. They were right in the breadbasket. And as a Titans fan myself, I was texting a couple friends back home. I would give anything for the Titans. That's a player right there. You could throw away your franchise and you'd be all right, I think.
We did talk about it early on, saying that at first, before Joe Burrow became this Heisman favorite, that he was going to be creeping around the Titans pick, but he's number one for sure now. It's no gimme, nothing. Joe Burrow will be the first overall pick of this year's draft.
And unfortunately enough for him, it looks like that's going to be the Bengals, unless, although they've came out and said they don't have any interest in trading away that pick. Joe Burrow is just a gamer who loves playing the game of football, who didn't have what a lot of these quarterbacks had, success from the very second, transferred away from Ohio State. And to me, that has really fueled him today because he's not taking any of this for granted anymore. Mm-hmm. He's loving every second of it, and he's just kind of thriving under the system that Joe Brady and company kind of put him in. And, of course, Joe Brady, he's now going over to the Panthers. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, a little bit later. But he's put in a good system with a lot of good talent, but don't get it twisted. There's not another quarterback in America who could do what he did this season.
He was easily number one quarterback after – you could try to argue Justin Herbert from Oregon.
I would have liked to seen Tua if he didn't get hurt, just kind of going back and forth. Stats-wise, at the time, they were kind of similar. Burrow had the lead on him, but I would have liked to seen what happened there. But just the injury, that kind of put it out of reach for Tua. So great season for Joe Burrow, and I don't know if there's a better story in America sports-wise than this LSU Tiger team, because Coach O was getting laughed at once he got hired over at LSU, and including me, I am pretty sure I didn't think firing Les Miles for Coach O I thought was crazy. But here they are, best season probably in college football history.
They had the record for most points ever in a season. They broke my Sooners' 2008 record, and they blew it out the water, which was just ridiculous. Coach O could have been at USC.
And they were doing it against SEC defenses.
And that's also a thing, is that it wasn't against mediocre teams.
Right.
They had 6 top 10 AP wins.
In their non-conference game, they played Texas early in the season, so that kind of showed, even though they were playing a tough conference schedule in the SEC, they were doing it outside as well. And ultimately, I think that helped them later on because they weren't fazed by some of these competitions. And to me, I know it'll be up to debate for the end of time, but what Clemson does non-conference-wise, it just kind of, although it sets them up to be in the playoff every year, they're not playing any competition until the final 2 weeks, and that's where you're in trouble.
Dabo did a great job changing the narrative to look at these other guys.
Right.
Knowing that his non-conference schedule, where he only plays 1 to 2 top 25 teams,
right,
it benefits him in the long run because he doesn't have to worry about – it only had one scare, and that was against North Carolina.
And Alabama is starting to do it as well. They're not playing some of these powerhouses because the committee has shown it's not a big deal. If you're undefeated and you haven't played nobody, fair play. You're in there. So it's
even one loss.
Right.
Even one loss.
And so it kind of shows coaches what's the point in me killing myself to get into the playoff if I'm playing all these top schools. But if I can just play some of these cupcakes and get in, what's the point? So that's another topic for another day.
I got a question for you. How did you feel about Tua with his little insurance policy and then deciding that he wanted to go to the draft? Because we haven't talked about it since.
Yeah, it's something I thought could go either way. Whenever I saw that Saban was going to be at the press conference along with Tua, I thought for sure it was held on the Bama campus. I was like, this guy's coming back and staying because in days prior, you had some of the offensive linemen say they're coming back. Although Jerry Jeudy, he's going to the draft, so that I think that might have influenced a little bit. I was cool either way, but at this point for Tua, I don't know if there's much he can prove in this upcoming college football season other than stay healthy, and I'd rather prove that I can stay healthy and get paid paid in the NFL. That's just me.
I thought it was best for him to go ahead and leave because he did what needed to be done at Alabama.
He's won a national title. He's won the SEC. What more can the guy do?
The insurance policy, if you didn't know, if he was going to drop out of the top 15 and then have the drop out of the lottery, he still was going to be able to get lottery money. That was the insurance policy that rumored around. We don't still know if it's for sure actual policy, but how Tua has been healthy and the reports on him, looks like he's going to still be a top 10 pick no matter what, even with the injury. But
and there's a player on the other end of the spectrum that decided to come back, and Trey Smith over at Tennessee, the left tackle, kind of had problems with health, whether blood clots or his knee, and he decided he'd rather come back. He's from the state of Tennessee, loves running out of the tee in Knoxville. So that's kind of, you see two different sides of the spectrum. Obviously, Tua's got a little more a little more money involved in it than Trey, but you kind of see you see both ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move on because we're gonna have to talk about your Titans a little bit in this NFL because they had a little rivalry here as Gabe Patriots got taken out by the Titans here, and Titans might have had one of the best runs they've had in
my lifetime, at least. Well, I take that back. In my quote unquote lifetime, I was one whenever the Super Bowl run happened. I don't remember any of it. There's videos of me watching it, but in terms of me sitting in front of a TV and watching it, the greatest run, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say it would be one heck of a run to defeat the GOAT and the reigning Super Bowl champions, then go and defeat the MVP in Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, and then if you were to defeat pretty much the best arm talent we've ever seen in Patrick Mahomes.
He is the current MVP.
And who is the current MVP to make it to the Super Bowl and then, I guess, in this reality, beat the San Francisco 49ers and that crazy D-line. Probably the best Super Bowl run in possibly history.
And as we know now, it's too good to be true, unfortunately.
Of course, Ryan Tannehill is your quarterback. Yeah. Wake up, guys. Wake up.
Yeah, and first I guess we can talk about the Patriots game. A game I wasn't very confident in at all. Gabe, were you? We talked about it a little bit, but we kind of didn't want to. What was your thoughts going into that one? I guess.
Going into the game, honestly, all the ingredients for a Patriots loss were in the mix. We have an ex-coach. The Titans take all of our players.
Yep.
Y'all have our weakness. Our strength was in our defensive backs and our secondary. Y'all had Derrick Henry, and, I mean, we peaked. I guess we went through a lot this season. Obviously, some players are having issues now, as we've seen, ex-players that are not on our team. And y'all peaked at the right time. So y'all just caught the wave and rode it.
And I totally agree with you. My only thing was it's the Patriots in Gillette in January. Yep. So I was like, this doesn't feel right. I thought they were just kind of setting me up to think, oh, we got a chance here. And then Tom Brady comes in and just dominates us like he did 2 years ago. But it kind of carried over. That same sort of Patriots offense carried over where the receiver separation was little to none. The running game really didn't get going ever. And then defensively, defensive back-wise, it went exactly how you'd want it to. We barely passed it at all. Looking at the stats here, Ryan Tannehill had a total of 72 yards and 1 touchdown and an interception.
Wasn't it like 9 for 11?
Yeah,
or something?
Yeah, 8 of 15. Only completed 8 passes. So in that front, you're thinking, my goodness, we're going to blow these people out. And then you look down, and Derrick Henry had 182 yards.
They just kept fading Henry the whole time. It wasn't really much that the Patriots could do. It's just a running back and tight end.
And there's nothing fancy. There's nothing pretty about it. And the thing that something that separates Derrick Henry from a lot of other backs. Early on in the game, he's not as quick, he's not as fast, he doesn't have that burst. He doesn't have the power really either. But just as the game goes on, he gets more and more confident, and it's that's kind of how this playoff run went. And then my favorite game, we won't even talk about the Chiefs because just how dominated Patrick Mahomes was, just took out my beating heart and displayed it to the world, and just a great game.
I have to call all my Titan friends, because that was a beating. I will say Patrick Mahomes just torched them, and Joe's a hater. He hates it. But enough of the Chiefs. Well, I'd like to talk one final thing about the Ravens-Titans game. A game that I was downtown in Nashville for. Went to actually 3 of them. 2 of them were packed. We got there an hour and a half before, and all of them were filled. No seating room, no bar room. So we ended up going to a restaurant just off West End, and what a great game that was. And that's one of the best defensive master classes I've ever seen from a defensive coordinator in Dean Pease. Just effectively shut off Lamar Jackson, even though it's kind of the same thing with Austin Peay. If you looked at the stats, you're thinking, well, this game was pretty close. And if you look at the stats for Lamar Jackson, he had a great game, 365 yards passing and $140 rushing. It was nothing that he could honestly do outside of him playing exceptionally well really in that game. It was like also Mark Ingram, he was hurt. He was hurt. He couldn't fully play.
They played well between the 20s. They didn't play well in the 20s.
Because they got to the red zone multiple times.
Right.
They couldn't just cash in.
And that's the kind of Titans' MO all year, has been but don't break. So that whether that's forcing field goals or forcing a turnover, which we saw multiple times, Lamar throwing interceptions or fumbles. But in terms of, I'd like to give a big shout out to Logan Ryan. I thought he did very well blitzing off the end and really just shutting down some of these zone reads from Lamar Jackson. But another Derrick Henry masterclass, 195 yards, and then a little better game from Tannehill, 7 of 14, 2 touchdowns on 88 yards passing.
One of them was just a deep ball.
Right.
One of them was half of his.
Straight off their turnover from Lamar to Khalif Raymond out of Holy Cross. So one of my most favorite experiences as a Titans fan that ultimately came to an end against the Chiefs.
Patrick Mahomes being Patrick Mahomes. You know, let's go ahead and try to talk about a quick hitter about this Super Bowl, because I think one thing for me, if the Chiefs are going to win, they got to give Patrick Mahomes time, because I think the back seven is somewhat vulnerable against these speedy receivers.
When you got old defensive backs like Richard Sherman, and his best thing is kind of up against these physical wide receivers who can kind of tell where they're going half a second before. But with Tyreek Hill, if you try and look at his feet, you've either fallen over or he's run by you.
But also with Richard Sherman, Richard Sherman loves to look at the quarterback too.
Right.
And Pat Mahomes
take your eye off Tyreek Hill.
And Pat Mahomes can trick these DBs a lot too with these double moves. That's one thing I think will happen. He might get beat off a double move just thinking he's gonna bite on a move, and it might not be Tyreek Hill. I actually would think it will be Sammy Watkins with a double move before Tyreek Hill. But if the front four, that's the one thing that's going to key in for me. If the 49ers front four can get home, it's going to be a tough outing for the Chiefs.
Another team that I believe is peaking at the right time, the Chiefs defensively, I'd say. The first few weeks of the season, they weren't playing great. These last few weeks, they've been playing outstanding, holding Derrick Henry to how many yards?
70 yards pass or rushing.
Yeah.
And obviously, we hadn't seen that in the last 4 games.
No.
He was having his way, and everybody knew who was getting the ball. And then, of course, whenever you have a Pat Mahomes on the other side, a man that was down 24-0 and just comfortably scored, went on a 51-7 run against the Texans.
As you do.
7 straight drives with a touchdown. Like, that's why I say
comfortably.
If the 49ers get a lead, they can't be comfortable in this game, because Patrick Mahomes can literally score touchdowns whenever. So you can't just be, we're up 14-0. We're up 17-0. We're going to try to control the clock.
I think the key.
It doesn't matter.
I think the key for the Niners, obviously, get hits on Pat Mahomes. Do not let him be comfortable in any way. And also for the 49ers offensively, do what you've been doing with Jimmy G. He went, 7 for 11 his last game, only completed like 2 passes in the second half. If you can run them up and down the field and possess the ball,
That's the thing.
then you have a chance.
The run defense has been really good by the Chiefs, though.
Exactly. They've been peaking at the right time.
One thing that it's funny to me, these outside zones that the 49ers are going to love to run. I want to see, because you saw against the Titans, the Chiefs can lock down north and south. Now, can you lock down east and west to see if are you really just a really good run defense? That's going to be the key right there.
It's a different type of run game, as you just said, because with the Titans, it's just pure force. And a lot of the 49ers, it's a lot of finesse kind of blocks, just getting the right hole at the right exact moment. So it's going to be interesting. I was shocked on how well the Chiefs did physically up front. If anything, I thought against the Patriots and Ravens, of all the teams that they were going to be able to get stopped by the Chiefs, I wouldn't have expected, but fair play. And in terms of that 49ers front on the defensive end, it's a top 5 pick factory. And you don't see that a lot. And unfortunately, or kind of unfortunately enough, Jimmy Garoppolo going down last season gave him a chance to get possibly the best pass rusher in the league already in Bosa. So fair enough to them, but I think Patrick Mahomes, he's going to have trouble. He likes to hold on to the ball, make things happen. He's going to have to be careful not to let some of these guys off the edge get to him.
It's going to be a very interesting game. I can't wait to watch that one. We should watch that one together, guys.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah, let's make that one happen. Let's watch that one together.
I would usually err towards the defense.
Because the defense, that's also as statistic goes, it does go in the favor of the defense.
Yeah.
But we've never seen an offense like Andy Reid and the Chiefs.
Absolutely. And I can't go against a man that can go on a 51-7 run. I just can't. So
I personally want the Chiefs to win, not just because also Patrick Mahomes, but also I want Andy Reid to get one because there's been a lot of scrutiny towards Andy Reid. Just because he has the record now of getting to the Super Bowl, making these playoff runs, but not getting the ring.
And his only time getting there was with McNabb and Terrell Owens, and just didn't get it done. And
who did he run into? Say his name.
Yep.
Say it. Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick.
But that's really Andy Reid's only knock is not getting
that
really into the Super Bowl or winning a ring either. So I agree with you. It'd be cool for the guy who wears Hawaiian shirts to finally win one.
It will be cool, but I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't be surprised if Jimmy G doesn't even throw the ball 15 times and they just Morstead. And Coleman is actually – he got hurt last game. But I wouldn't be surprised if Morstead just has a phenomenal game. Watch out for the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. He's going to be a key for that run defense, and he's going to be all over the floor for the Chiefs defense. I can't wait to see how he analyzes within these next few days for Super Bowl Sunday. But you know what? We're going to move past. No, actually, let's go ahead and ask this question. It's going to stay in the NFL because I know this guy is going to probably deny it immediately. But will Tom Brady actually leave the Patriots?
I think that he will if he gets a good enough deal. I believe that he sold his house or put his house up for sale during the season. So I think that there is a reality in which if we don't give him what he wants, if we don't at least meet him, then he would go play for another team. And I think another team would pick him up because I think he's better than a lot of quarterbacks still at this age. But I think Kraft doesn't want to get rid of Tom. And if he can do it, he'll stay. But if we don't meet him, then I think he'll play somewhere else.
I absolutely agree. And for me, I don't even think the contract is going to be the biggest thing. I just think he wants guarantees on that wide receiver roster because I don't think there's a chance he will come back if it's those same knuckleheads trying to run these routes and getting no separation. And for a guy who's although his arm isn't dead yet, it's not. He doesn't have that zip that he used to have anymore. So he's just going to need more separation, and he doesn't need any more than what he needed. Now it's just even less. So for a guy like Tom Brady who just needs a little bit of help, I don't see him coming back if it's these same sort of guys, and that's why I think here in Nashville, I think that might be an interesting proposition. For me, I loved what Tannehill did this season. A lot of it had to do with Derrick Henry, but then again, a lot of it had to do with Tannehill as well, because he won us that game in Kansas City, in Nashville versus Kansas City. Went on that game-winning drive and ended up giving it up to Adam Humphrey. So I think with this wide receiving roster with A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, and then having that luxury to hand it off to a number one running back in Derrick Henry, I wouldn't rule that out. And finally, well, two things. We always get Patriots, as Gabe was saying earlier.
Indeed.
And then he's good friends with Mike Vrabel, and I think those two would love to kind of meet up. And my only thing is, if we I would keep Tannehill unless he wants over $30 million. If he wants over $30 million, I'd rather. I don't think Tom Brady's going to ask for that number. So I would go personally with Mr. Thomas Brady.
All I know is the Raiders will gladly take him, and we have a better core.
Well, you need him.
Titans.
You need him for ticket sales, because someone's got to sell that big new stadium that's going to be opening up here pretty soon.
Fair enough.
I don't know if Giselle wants to stay in Vegas though. But it's not that far from LA, so I'm sure they'll have a good time.
And the same goes with the Chargers. I've seen a couple teams, the Raiders, Chargers. Chargers need to sell some tickets because they're barely selling out a MLS stadium, and now they're about to go into this palace of a stadium here in LA in a couple, either next year or the year after, or the Colts. I think that would be horrible for me, but great for Tom, because that offensive line is the best in football, in my opinion, with Quentin Nelson at the guard position and just kind of similar type guys at the wide receiving core.
But also, you got to watch out. The Colts was derailed with injuries.
Yeah.
So it might be another Patriot situation if Tom would go to the Colts and realize that T.Y. Hilton is getting hurt. Marlon Mack keep getting hurt. Now I have to.
And then again, who wants to live in Indianapolis? Let's be real. And it's a little bit different from the.
Fair enough on that one. But we're going to move away from the NFL and college football in general, because college basketball is underway. And we got two really good teams here at Austin Peay. And we're going to go with the women's first, because I know both of you guys have been covering the women's. I know Patton has been doing the TV side for ESPN Plus, and then Gabe's been doing the radio side for WAPX FM Clarksville's 91.9. But the women have been struggling, and that was just a heartbreaker of a loss against Belmont. A 1-point loss. Was it 54-53?
Yeah.
What happened there?
Well, the ladies, actually, Patton, I'll let you go start, and then I'll come, because we had a player, and we'll talk about the last play.
So, kind of towards the throughout the game, they just kind of kept it close, and I think that was the big thing for them. I don't think they wanted to kind of get out of distance 10 plus, although they did get behind double digits once or twice, but they ended up roaring back. But the big thing throughout the game was just kind of stay within striking distance, and then if they could make that little run that they needed to, they could. And I really liked what they did in that fourth quarter, because effectively they shut down Belmont's offense for nearly, I think it was 6.5 minutes, and they ended up getting, I believe it was a 3-point lead.
Yep.
But the big thing is they, too, went on a scoring drought. So they went on a scoring drought for also 7 minutes. So it was kind of a desperate back and forth on who could get a bucket. And unfortunately enough for the Governors, they just couldn't get a basket to kind of give themselves a little bit of a cushion when Belmont ends up finding their shot again. They kind of have that cushion to stay within a lead. But unfortunately enough, they didn't do that, and they ended up going down, I believe it was 1 point, and they had a chance to win the game, and Brianna Furby knocked down, I think, the biggest shot of her collegiate career, knocking down an elbow jumper that I don't think she really wanted to take necessarily, but she kind of gave in and shot the ball, and nothing but net.
It was a good look. It was a good look, though. If you are Coach Midlick and the Govs, you want Bree to take that shot, that confident shot right there, and she knocked it down. Then you went on the other end. I know Vernon, he had talked about it on the broadcast on the last play. Actually, go ahead, Gabe, and say what you wanted to talk about.
Oh, yeah, before Furby went to the line in the fourth quarter, the Govs only had 3 free throws the entire game to Belmont's. I believe it was double-digit free throw difference. Yeah. And then coming down the stretch, both teams pretty much stopped scoring. Austin Peay went up, and then coming down, we got the Furby shot.
Yep.
Harmer, Ellie, she just big-time player, makes a big-time play.
That was a tough shot.
Yeah,
it was great defense. You did exactly what you wanted, pushed her away from the basket.
Belmont finished the game 14 of 19 from the free throw line. Ellie Harmeyer had 10 of 10 from the free throw line herself. Mm-hmm. So, and that I knew that I heard Vernon on the broadcast saying that he wanted Ariel Gonzalez-Varner on Harmeyer in that situation.
And they ended up putting Maggie Knowles on Harmeyer, which she'd done a good job, I'd say, throughout the game. But towards that end, you know who's going to get the ball, and just that a little bit of more height with Gonzalez-Varner, even if she doesn't block it, she's going to influence the shot either way.
Talking with Jeff before the last possession, he asked me what I would do. I said immediately double Harmeyer. There's no chance that I would let her get up a shot.
Yeah, it was because you have a fair point. Belmont went 3 of 19 from 3, so they wasn't shooting the 3 ball well at all, as I'm looking right here. And Harmeyer, she shot 6 of 15. So Maggie, as you just stated, she did a great job defensively throughout the game. It was just Harmeyer's ability to get to the free throw line. That's what hurt Austin Peay the most, because every time, even that last year, because Harmeyer went 14 of 15 last year against Austin Peay here at home, and Belmont ended up winning that game as well. It was just the ability to get to the free throw line really haunted Austin Peay. And then the last play.
Gabe, you had a player on your broadcast. Tell us what the play was, and what the play kind of ended to be.
So last play, Harmeyer makes the bank shot layup. Mm-hmm. Last play, we get a timeout. It's an inbounds there was an inbound, took about 3 seconds. Ariel Gonzalez-Varner comes out to the three-point line, catches the ball, turns to her left, puts up a shot that did not happen after the clock. It was only 1.4 seconds left. So after the buzzer sounds, we got Ella Sawyer to come over and talk to us. So we asked her about what was the last play drawn up. The ball was supposed to go to Ariel Gonzalez-Varner, but I believe she was supposed to catch it deeper. Now, my criticism to that is, like, why would the other team, you're only down 1, of course they're going to not let you take a deep shot from inside. So what is your second plan? That would be my question to Coach. What would be your second plan? Was that your second plan for her to run out to the 3, catch it, and do that? Because you just have not enough time. Mm-hmm. It's not enough time.
I would have tried. I know if this is me, dumb Patton, trying to be head coach here, but you had Maggie Knowles, the inbounder. I think there's enough time for Maggie to inbound it, and then there's going to be no one on her because they're going to have her defender on someone else trying to double.
She immediately doubled onto Ari.
So if Ariel could have got it back to Maggie for a spot-up open look, she had just hit, I think she was four in a row from 3. I would have liked to seen her to get up a shot, but I don't think Gonzalez-Varner exactly knew time and clock, because as soon as she got it and she didn't get that opening look, she put the ball on the floor. She put the ball on the floor, and there's just no time to do anything after that. So ended up being a heartbreaker, but to me a much-needed performance that is going to give them confidence moving forward, because Belmont, I think, is going to end up winning the OVC. I think it all come down to whenever Belmont ends up playing Tennessee Tech. So that'll be a good game, but that kind of just is going to give them the confidence that they can play up to anybody in the OVC.
I think the top 3 teams is Belmont, UT Martin, and Tennessee Tech.
Yep.
Martin would be my pick because Chelsea Perry cannot be stopped.
Chelsea Perry's like, was it 3 or 4-time player of the week now?
Oh, she's ran off. Harmeyer won the first 2, and then Chelsea Perry, I believe, she didn't win the next few, but she's ran off the last 4.
Yeah, for sure. Chelsea Perry has been dominating at UT Martin. If you should check her out. Phenomenal player, low post presence, also has an outside touch.
The amount of talent in this conference, I got to say,
absolutely.
has really improved since only I've been here for 3 years.
And it's not only on one side; it's both men and women
Absolutely.
who have. They're just plain and simple. They're bucket getters, just plain and simple, on multiple teams in the conference, the Ohio Valley Conference.
And if anything, I think you could argue the women have gotten maybe above tier, because I think there's more teams on the women's side of the things that could really win the OVC other than the men. I think the men, there's 3 teams really, but I think it's a deep conference that anybody can get.
The top 4 is up for grabs, really, honestly, because any team can win it.
Yeah.
That's why Austin Peay with a 2-6 record in the conference right now. But if you look at the schedule, they played a lot of the top teams early on, and you just like the record might look bad, but Austin Peay really was playing well. It's just when you play those top 4 teams in the conference, sometimes it's going to go in your favor, sometimes it won't.
They ran through the gauntlet. I talked to Mitlick about that. He said that pretty much other than the big loss against SEMO, they were in the game with about 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. They just did things that did not contribute to their winning.
Closing out games.
Exactly, closing out games.
That's one of the problems that I've noticed, too, as well, for the women's side, just closing out games. Once they find that, I think it's also they don't know who to go to, really, in those closing moments. And
in my opinion, I think it should be Ariel Gonzalez-Varner just in that situation, in that game. What happened?
And the only thing with Gonzalez-Varner that game, she was missing point-blank shots.
Absolutely.
Right at the rim. So I think she just kind of lost her confidence early in the game. And at that point, I don't know if you want her to have that final shot necessarily. I would have given it to Maggie, but
in that game, Ella Sawyer, I believe she had 6 made field goals.
Yeah.
Only one of them was a layup.
Yeah.
She was knocking down jumpers, so I would have fed her.
Either Ella or Maggie. But also in those closing moments, that low post presence by Ari, the defense gets tighter. It's going to be times, and you saw in multiple games, it's hard to feed her down low with 5 feet, 6 feet from the basket, because that weak side help is coming. That strong side help is coming, and you need somebody sometimes in the perimeter to knock down shots to help out. So sometimes you might need you can have one closer, just like somebody we're going to talk about in the future. And in just a moment, it was Shaq and Kobe. With Shaq, you had the low post presence, so you can feed him in those closing moments. But also you had somebody else that you could depend on to shoot those perimeter jumpers and get you a bucket, even if they got dumped off and they collapsed on Shaq. I think that's something that the Governors right now, for the women's side, they have to find out. For the men's side, I think they have already found out who those 2 players are. For the women, they're still trying to figure things out, but it's really close. I really feel like the Governors are very close to having a phenomenal run. And once they get those wins under their belts and get their confidence back up, like before conference play was, I think they could have a shot at running.
Indeed, this team was successful in the beginning of the season. They've went through their stretch of tough teams, and now they have the chance to peak at the right time.
And kind of Belmont found out Austin Peay's the last 8 seed you'd like to see in the first round. I think you'd rather some of these others. And they, as you mentioned, Gabe, had their best start in program history early on into December, and then kind of this sluggish start here in conference play, but there's a lot of ball left to play.
Now on the men's side, they're undefeated in conference play, still number 1 tied with Murray State. Terry Taylor and Jordan Adams. They are you can't deny they're one of the best duos in the conference.
Probably statistically, probably yeah.
Well,
23 points from TT.
Especially if you look out in other conferences. Really, talent is low to me. I think in terms of star players, talent is low. And Jordan Adams, I think he's either the 5th or 6th best scoring freshman in the NCAA. So, I mean, that kind of just puts in perspective how good at least Jordan Adams is. And then Terry Taylor, I think he's running away with Player of the Year. I don't see anyone else really being anywhere close.
The only 2 people I think is Jamaru Brown from Eastern Kentucky and Tevin Smith from Murray State are the only other ones.
And these are 2 guys that you could see playing at the next level. I don't think there's any doubt about it, especially Jordan Adams. I think Jordan might have a little better chance just because of the size problems that Terry's going to face later on.
Excuse me, it's actually Tevin Brown from Murray State as well.
Gotcha.
He's also one of the Tevin Brown, not Tevin Smith, but Tevin Brown from Murray State. Also, you got to watch out for him. Murray State has another great guard that can put the ball in the bucket. But I think
Where are they getting these guys? I mean,
Terry Taylor is, I think, the player of the year right now. And also, a few games ago, not last game against Belmont, but 2 games ago, both of them dropped 37.
And Jordan had 30, I think 30 before
28 before
30.
halftime.
Oh man, it was a show. I was working replay that game. All replays. Jordan Adams just pull up 3, turn around jumper, pull up 3.
Jordan actually helped out this team against Belmont with the half court heave because that was a momentum swinger in favor of Austin Peay because he pulled it from beyond half court. It wasn't even at half court. It was beyond half court on the other side of the Tennessee logo.
Man.
And a lot of the times you see that bank off the glass, that hit nothing but net. String music is still being played in the Dunn Center.
A green light for sure. On 2K, Jordan Adams pulled it, but it decreased the lead to 5, Belmont's 5-point lead when at the end of that first half, Coach Riggs said he wasn't happy with his team and how they was playing. And that half-court heave sparked it up. And also, Terry Taylor was crashing offensive glass. He didn't have the best game because, plain and simple, Belmont had 3 guys on him almost seemed like every time he touched the ball from whatever. So Jordan and Eli Abayev, the big man down low for the Govs, stepped up big early on.
I want to talk about Grayson Murphy for Belmont.
Oh, yeah. Grayson Murphy's also a phenomenal guard for Belmont.
I can't remember his stats from last year, but I know he had something like 20 points and 16 assists. This game, he had 23 points and 10 assists. This man could not be stopped. We couldn't stop him.
It was 22 points and 15 assists last time
ridiculous.
it was at Austin Peay last year. Yeah.
And it's a lot of the times you see some of these points. These were circus shots that he was putting in, and high level difficult.
Because I worked the ESPN broadcast for it. He's actually like the best rebounding guard.
I saw that
in
as
the
well.
NCAA.
Yep.
He was attacking. He grabbed boards, assists out of this world. He actually holds the record for a single game. 16 assists was his, the singles record for a single game for Belmont history. Grayson Murphy,
that dude's unbelievable.
He was only shooting 29% before that game from 3, but you saw his style and play, run and gun, get into the basket, could get to the cup whenever he wanted. Belmont is another good team to watch out for, but Murray and Austin Peay separated themselves from the rest.
And this was always going to be kind of a tough year for Belmont. You've got the new head coach coming over from Lipscomb. His recruits, these aren't his guys, even though they're talented guys. He doesn't have that, the guys he wants to run his style of play. So although it's a quote-unquote down year, they're going to be 3rd, 4th probably in the OVC. I'd love
third. They're only 2 games back.
Right. So, it was always going to be tough, but that's still another team. I don't think Austin Peay, if someone else could knock off Belmont for him, that'd be ideal.
I think Murray State or Austin Peay doesn't really want to play Belmont in the tournament because it can go either way. That's all the top 3 teams I think in the OVC. But Austin Peay really has a good chance. And what a year it could be if football team wins the Ohio Valley Conference and then your men's basketball team
and women's. I think the women still
also
have a chance.
The women still also have a chance, but it would still be pretty crazy and a pretty amazing year if both teams could come out.
Well, just
the OVC
the national
championship.
exposure from the football team alone was a bit crazy. You're seeing ESPN highlights of the football team, and I think if this team could get into the big dance, shall we say, I think just the recognition for this basketball program. Not a lot of students come to these games. That'd be a big thing. We don't really get to talk about it on the broadcast because we don't want to bash anybody, but I'd love to see the students kind of come out because you got 2 of the best basketball teams in the OVC playing in. You get to come in for free, and concessions aren't that expensive, and it's a great brand of basketball. It's not these gritty type, put you to sleep type basketball games. You got 2 guys for the men's Jordan Adams and Terry Taylor, who could drop 50 anytime they want. And for the women's, it's a fun kind of pass it around.
Run and gun pace.
Get the three-pointers up. So that would just be my suggestions to kind of rock out, sell out the Dunn Center and really get a true home atmosphere, especially – I'm sure we'll get it anyway, but Murray State coming in on February 13th.
That's one thing I do want to see the increase of, but
it's slowly starting to get there. I think the lower bowl is starting to fill, and then it just goes up from there to the higher tier.
Indeed.
Fans, Austin Peay students, go out and support your Govs. That's one thing. That's the message we're trying to send to you guys for sure. But the last thing we're going to talk about is the heartbreaking news that came out Sunday about the Lakers legend, the greatest Laker of all time.
From Magic Johnson's own mouth. So
from Magic's own mouth. He's now number 4 in scoring. Kobe Bryant passed away in a helicopter crash with his 13-year-old daughter, and a total of 9 people killed in that helicopter crash. It was a heartbreaking event. I don't know about y'all guys, but immediately when I saw it, I was like, it can't be true. It can't be true. It's Kobe. This is Kobe Bean Bryant. This is the Black Mamba. This is one of the idols from a local, just a typical kid like me. There's no way that he could be dead. There's no way that he actually is dead. And then I saw one thing that got me, because TMZ had broke it out the news first. I was like, okay, it's just TMZ. Then once I saw Yahoo Sports and then the beat writers for the Lakers confirming it, then once I saw Woj tweet it out, I was already crying. I'm not even going to lie. I cried because it was Kobe meant a lot to our generation. And I think that some of the older guys don't, like, they felt it, but he hit so many of us because I'm 21, Gabe's 21. Everybody's 21. And, like, we grew up right in his prime. Like, I know Joe, he's in the back here. He was able to watch Magic. He was able to watch Bird. He was able to watch Jordan, Hakeem. LeBron and Kobe was the 2 guys where it was just like, yo, these guys are awesome. And, like, I just don't want to spill all the spotlight on it. I want you guys to talk about it because it still messes with me right now to this day.
Yes, I'm still super sad. I guess after I saw the news, I kind of, like, just put my phone down. I was just in a state of shock, and then the tears. It's super sad that anybody dying is sad. 9 people dying in a helicopter crash, or 8, or however many, it's super sad. And one of those being Kobe Bryant, his daughter, is just super sad because it impacts so many people. Kobe was one of my favorite players. Kobe, Magic, Bird, those are my 3 favorites all time. So it's super tough for me, but I'll let Patton.
Yeah, it's I think we all can agree, just a sudden occurrence to where it just doesn't seem right.
Doesn't make sense.
Just the night before, you had LeBron passing Kobe on the all-time scoring list, and you had it just kind of looking back. If you go back and look at some of the tweets and stuff sent out, it just seems really, really weird. You had LeBron, I think, Mamba for life written on his shoe, and just kind of looking back, it just doesn't seem. And then you had Kobe, his last tweet is congratulating LeBron, this ultimate competitor who was so selfless enough to kind of reach out, and because LeBron was probably one of the last people to talk to Kobe other than his wife and kids. He had a late phone call with him, and as a LeBron fan myself in his playing days, I despise Kobe. He was LeBron's quote-unquote arch nemesis, shall we say, but it kind of gave LeBron that reason to push even harder because he had a guy like Kobe on the other end of the conference who was going for his neck, and if he wasn't ready, he was gonna win year in, year out. So it kind of gave that rivalry an even boost, and it gave LeBron that even boost.
But that's the thing, though. Like, us growing up, whether you hated Kobe or you hated LeBron, it was hate, but you respected it. And it was like respect it, but you also loved their game, either side. And that's one thing, like, a lot of us, like, I kid you not, NBA Live 2003, Jason Kidd on the cover. I'm only 5-6 years old about the time that happened. I'm playing with Kobe Bryant. That was the only person I was playing with. One-on-one, play now. It didn't matter. I was playing with the Lakers because of Kobe Bryant. One of the first few games that I ever watched was LeBron and Kobe playing against the Grizzlies. It really hit hard because he touched so many lives, not only here in Memphis, in Clarksville, in Tennessee, across the country, not even in the United States, but across the globe.
I think if this coronavirus thing wouldn't be a thing, we would see so much stuff from China. It'd be crazy, which that's an issue. It's crazy. But, yeah, the thing that hurts me a lot that we won't even get to hear his retirement speech. Oh. We don't know who he'll get his Hall of Fame speech. We don't know who he was going to pick to induct him. So that kills me. That killed me. I was talking about it a few days before. I was like, I can't wait until I get to hear his his Hall of Fame speech. Gone. Can't do it.
And for me, I think he was just starting to kind of get to be a true dad, because a lot of times in the NBA, you're on the road most times, most days out of the year.
And that's the reason why he used the helicopter.
Right, and he was starting to really pass on his true knowledge to his daughter Gigi, who was along in the crash. And I think women's basketball was about to absolutely explode, because you had a guy like Kobe Bryant who had really stepped away from the NBA. Very rarely, you were started to see him more and more in NBA arenas as his daughter wanted to go see some of these greats. But he was more focusing on the women's side of the game. You had him going to UConn, hanging around with Coach Gino Auriemma over in UConn. So he was just, I think women's basketball was about to explode. It's about to be something we've never seen before. And now we have to wait for someone else to pick up the torch. And my hope is LeBron having a daughter. I don't think she is necessarily into the sports as much as Kobe's daughter, who passed away, was. But I'd love to see him pick up that torch, because I think it'd mean a lot to not only Kobe's family, but I think Kobe or LeBron would know that's exactly what Kobe would want, because I think the women's game right now is in such dire need of someone to really pick it up by its hands and really explode it.
He was a pioneer, I will say, Kobe Bryant was, because you had the love, you saw the love and passion for basketball, and then after he retired, he changed it. But he still had the same motive, and he was touching bases on everything. Everything that he touched, it was sprouting up greatness.
And he started, as I mentioned, he started to come back to some of these games. I was watching ESPN late last night after they aired his final game, his 60-point game. Two things. The Gordon Hayward, I don't know if anyone's watched, but his final free throw, Gordon Hayward intentionally does a lane violation in case Kobe does miss it, and he stays at 59. Kobe would have got to taking the shot again. So that's just something, a little thing. And then another one, Kobe went to go see Luka Doncic whenever he went to the Staples Center, and Luka said, someone was speaking in my language, and I turned around, and it was Kobe. And Kobe was talking to him in, I believe it was Serbian, and after the game got to take a picture with Kobe's daughter. So really just
Trey Young.
Yeah, he's starting to, he was really getting started. I think that's the word I'd like to use. He was really starting to get started in being a true dad that he wanted to be.
Kobe Bryant, Gianna Bryant, John Altobelli, and his wife, Carrie, Alyssa, who was also there. She was also Gigi's teammate, Christina Mauser, Sarah Chester, Peyton Chester, and the pilot, Ara Zabanyan. Rest in peace to their souls. It's going to be a tough one. Each and every player, each and every friend, each and every little kid who practiced fadeaways, doing the little shimmy, shooting paper balls in the trash can. Everybody's going to remember Kobe as the legend that he is. It was just a tough and sad way to go out like that. But we have to move on. That's something that Kobe would want us to do, is also move on. He is a legend, but it's going to be a tough one to bear. But that's going to be all we have here on today. It's January 28th, 2020, 3:59 left. And I just want to say my name is Marcus Modey, Gabe Jones, Patton Cook here, right here in the studio of WAPX-FM Clarksville's 91.9 and on YouTube at APSU-TV. Thank y'all for listening and watching. This is the episode 8 of Just Talking Sports.